This is Boxing Tickets NI in association with Valiant Gentlemen. We're glad to say we're joined by Sugar Ray Moylette. How are you, Ray?
Stephen, how are you doing, pal? Good to talk to you.
Always fantastic. You probably, I would say you sort of come and go on the sort of social media sort of scene at times, I'd probably say you were fundamental in helping James Tennyson, obviously a Belfast slugger, well, probably a Belfast danger man nearly from here, and been part of the tools behind the makeup of what got James's British title and things recently. So you've been sort of lending your craft to helping other people rather than yourself. Sometimes probably it shows the person you are.
I wouldn't really look at it that way. Like sparring, or when you get the opportunity to spar a world-class fighter as in James Tennyson, you take it with both hands. Thankfully, I was in physical condition. I was able to take the fights. I was actually hoping to get fights throughout the camp. When I was with him, I was hoping something would fall in line for me. Obviously, that didn't happen, so I was trying to stay ready. I didn't help him for his last fight with Strafford because I was out of camp and I wouldn't dream going into the ring with him not in shape. You know, he's too much of a dangerous puncher to be taking any chances with. So look at I love helping James and love helping him out as well. He's a good guy, very good for boxing, but at the end of the day, I was doing it for myself. I was trying to get the experience dealing with a world class fighter and trying to to sharpen iron with iron, really, So I am, thanks for the compliment, helping other boxers, but really every boxer's in it for themselves, and if they don't tell you that, they're lying,
They definitely are. As you may have known, obviously, pretty much when we bring somebody on for the first time, we sort of like as you know yourself, Ray, whenever you have fight news and everything else, people crawl out from under the woodwork and fight week, there'll be parts of your story told, but sometimes people forget why you get involved in things in sport as well. So particularly obviously when we bring you on the first time, now the second or third time we might bring you on, we might grill you a bit more, but it's more of a get to know you, understand, and we sort of like, so can you remember, I'm not saying you're over the hill here, by the way, because I'm older than you, but if you can remember back, what age did you start boxing and why?
Yeah, I can remember back. It's a long time ago now. If I can remember, it's about 24 years ago. I was 7 years of age. My father brought me back into the boxing club in Westport, St. Anne's Boxing Club in Westport. My older brother Ricardo used to be boxing, and I used to be following him everywhere. I think there's seven of us in the house, so there was a good gang for mother to be minding. So she probably just used to send me back with my older brother as well. I was the baby of the house, so I was just probably to get out from under her feet. And unknown to anyone really, I started picking it up. At that young age, there was no expectations on you, obviously, but I was obviously picking up bits and pieces. By the time I came to 11 years of age, when you can start to fight officially, I obviously had fights before that at 10, 11, and loads of spars, but I was already ahead of the pack because most young lads don't start boxing until maybe 9 or 10 or even sometimes 11. Um, I'd been boxing already 3 or 4 years before that. So I probably got a head start into the game. Won a boy one national title. Didn't do anything from boy two, and then I won a boy three. And every second year I was winning. It was sort of, I don't know, a trait of mine that I used to go off the rails. Not off the rails when I was a young lad, but maybe think I had nothing else to do. Just go up there and collect my medal. But obviously that didn't happen because all the other lads were training harder and boxing better than me. So, and then I always used to get my act together again and then change it up again. So that was sort of my career really until I was 18, and coming from the west of Ireland, there's no big expectations on anyone, especially not boxing, because there's not so many senior boxers in Mayo. Number one, because when you get to 18, girls and alcohol come in to the equation. Well, they come in before it too, but it's really hit at 18. And most of the boxers then go to college after school, and there's no real college in Castlebar, or in Mayo really. So they have to go to Galway or Sligo, and then when you take the athlete out of their home environment and throw them into the world of college, the interest obviously goes. So that's why there's not much senior boxing in Mayo. That's my thinking of it anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
I stuck around and stay boxing, you know, and that's what has me here.
And like probably, I'd probably say of the age we sort of are in boxing, it probably nearly seems to be a new breed of boxing fans that's sort of there. People probably wouldn't know. People know who Wayne McCulloch is, but they wouldn't necessarily know what Wayne McCulloch done in his career. Probably the same with Barry McGuigan as well. They know of the name, but don't know of what you've come through. Like I look at your achievements, and you're sort of saying like probably like nearly every odd year or every even year you sort of done well. Um, this is you'll probably correct me if I'm wrong on some of this, but in obviously the facts I'm able to find online. So you're four-time national champion, cadet and under 19 champion, first Irishman to become a youth world gold medalist in Mexico in 2008, and a 2011 European gold, and you defeated Tom Stalker in the final. So
Yeah.
you've obviously you took the boxing probably very well as an amateur.
I was a very successful amateur throughout my career, but I had a longer career than most.
Mm-hmm.
From 11 to when did I turn over? 2016 maybe.
2017.
So yeah, well, yeah, early 2017. Yeah. So you know, it's 16 years of amateur boxing. You know, so there's not that many boxers that stay on that long.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I had a great career. You know, growing up, I won sort of everything that was sort of asked of me. I won the national titles growing up. I won a national elite title. I only got one, lost a few finals. And then I went on. I won a European title and I won a world title. You know, so I've won sort of everything. The Olympics escaped me. You know, I stayed at them. I went for London, I went for Rio, and I missed out on Rio for one fight, and London there was two fights, you know. So I was pretty close, and I'd bet a few lads that were in the competitions, you know, and even the medaled on them. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, I bet Tom Stalker, let's say, in the European final in Ankara in Turkey, and he was in 2010, and he was the captain of the English team of the English boxing team in London Olympics. You know what I mean? So that
Mm-hmm.
was that. In Mexico in 2008, I bet Daniel Yeluzanov in the final. So the world final, we all know he went on to win Olympic gold in London or Rio. I don't know where it was. Um, you know, so I was pretty close to the line, but that one escaped me. But I sort of ticked all the other boxes, you know.
Yep. And like, as I say, the sort of something to let to go by is like you look at it now, people probably turning over now, you have um people turning over their 8, 9 time, 10 time Irish champion are sort of going, Craigie, where's the conveyor belt that's sort of wheeling them off? But accomplishments you sort of had as an amateur probably used to be the things that got you big contracts when you signed over. It used to be like Commonwealths and Worlds and things like that. You used to get good contracts out of it, but seems to have phased off now.
Yeah, when I turned over, so let's say I turned over 2017, probably did all the paperwork the end of 2016, and the contract sort of had went at that stage.
Mm-hmm.
Was coming up to Olympic year, and I suppose when I turned over in 2000, let's say 17, so and like my last major medal was in 2011. So you know what I mean? I had 5 years off the boil, you could say. Whereas if I
Mm-hmm.
turned over earlier, I might have maybe made a few pounds on the turnover, but I actually didn't make any money turning over. I would just maybe give myself another chance or another crack or another bite at the cherry, you know. The contracts now are coming from Olympic athletes. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you need the Olympics behind you. That's what promoters are looking for. That's sort of the benchmark of boxers. And that's where you need to be. You need to be hitting the ground running. I see a lot of lads turning over pro. They don't have the amateur experience, they don't have the titles, and they just see the glamorous lifestyle, the watches going up on Instagram, and the pictures and the videos. But like that's not really what it's about at all.
Mm-hmm.
Professional boxing is a tough game, and you need to get the breaks, and more so than not, people don't get the breaks. You know, so you nearly don't want to. It can't be a last resort to turn to professional boxing because there's just too much at risk and too much out of your hands. You know, so if I have any advice to anyone, it would be stick to the amateur game as long as you can, bleed that dry, do all you can at that, get to the top of that, and then decide to turn over and pick your right team. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like I did. I exhausted all my options in the amateur game. I wasn't going to stay on for the next Olympics 4 years after Rio, you know. So I was just sort of exhausted with that. I did enough for camp in Dublin, and I was done with there or with the high performance, and I just wanted to break from that. And I wanted it was either turn professional or pack it in, and I wasn't ready to pack it in, so I wanted to turn pro and try my hand at that. You know, it's an experience at the end of the day. When I look back at now, boxing doesn't owe me anything. Boxing has
Mm-hmm.
been very good to me financially. It's helped me out when I was a young lad. It gave me plenty of money, gave me plenty of status down in my home. It sort of, you know, I met my wife through boxing. All my family gather around when I fight, you know, so it's been very good to me, and it doesn't owe me anything. So
Mm-hmm.
anything I get from here on in is going to be a bonus.
Definitely is. And whenever you turned over, obviously, as you signed the deal and stuff like that in 2016, did you have many offers in turning over? And was it got to the stage then where you were like, I've had enough of amateur boxing, now it's a case of see where we go in the pros?
Yeah, no one came to me asking me to go pro. You know, it was my own decision. It was
Mm-hmm.
me that I went looking for promoters and trainers. Would they take me on board? That's the way it was. Um, yeah, so no one actually came up to me and said, "Ray, will you turn pro? We'll give you such amount." That never happened.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I wasn't suitable in some of the promoters' eyes or the trainers' eyes, whatever it was. But I remember, so I used the WSB and APB, which is professional boxing within amateur boxing, to go to the qualifiers for the Rio Games.
Mm-hmm.
And I was up in Celtic Warrior gym sparring with Stephen Ormond, because
Mm-hmm.
it's completely different. Professional boxing, amateur boxing, the style is different. The endurance is different. The skill set is completely different. And I couldn't get that at any of the amateur clubs where I grew up in. So we went up and we built myself and Martin Brennan. He's my old coach in St. Anne's and a good friend of mine. And we built a relationship with Packy Collins then, and the boxes up there, Spike and Stephen Ormond, and they were all there. And when the time came to turn over, I knew that's where I wanted to be based. I wanted to be based in that stable. You know, it's just
Mm-hmm.
when I walked into that gym, Celtic Warriors there in Blanchardstown, it just felt right, and it felt someplace that I could be very comfortable in, and knew I'd be looked after. So that was the easy decision. The hardest decision then was decide what promoters you go with, where do you base yourself out of, you know, things like that. There's a lot of factors that people don't know. You know, like I had decisions to make that I didn't even know I had to make the decision,
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, it's coming from the high performance unit. Everything is laid on for you. All your food is laid on. All your accommodation is laid on. All your fight is laid. All your fights, all your fight camps are laid on. Everything is just laid on for you. All you do is show up. When you turn over professional, you have to do all that yourself. You know, and that
Mm-hmm.
takes a bit of getting used to. After being mollycoddled for, when in 2008 I joined the high performance, and so I was 8 years. I was in a structure where I just had to show up. Everyone did everything for me, you know. So I was pulled out of that. Well, I got fed up with that too. Being honest, I wanted to be my own man. I wanted to be independent. I wanted to make decisions for myself, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because sometimes you get institutionalized and you're going around like a headless chicken, let's say, and just following orders. You know, I didn't. That didn't suit me anymore. I sort of enough of just following orders, and I wanted to make my own decisions. And if it worked out, good and well. But if it didn't, I'd no one to blame, only myself. You know, and I needed that. I just needed that on my own conscience, that I was making decisions from now on.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. Sometimes it's being your own man and sort of growing up rather than things being forced on you. Um, you obviously made your pro debut just about 4.5 years ago, pretty much now. So 4th of March, 2017 in London. You had actually 8 fights in your debut year. Was it pretty much nearly? Was it more? They had so many fights very quickly to try and adapt to the pro ranks quicker. Or did you sort of struggle with it to start turning over?
No, I feel I turned over pretty well, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because look, I was never the best technical boxer. I was always sort of rough and tough, and I could always take a punch, and I like going into fights, you know, and I had good support. That's important as well in professional boxing. So I sort of adapted to it pretty well, I felt. The reason probably I was being fast tracked was because to build my record up to be able to
Mm-hmm.
get the bigger fights quicker. I
Mm-hmm.
in my head I said this is a 3-year plan, so I'm going to give this 3 years now, put everything into it, and then I'll see where I am from there. But I had 2 good years, and then the chaos hit, and then now I'm in 2 years later. So I'm in 4 years, and I had 2 good ones and 2 bad ones. So
Mm-hmm.
I've obviously plenty more left in the tank, but the plans that or the plans we had back in 2017 was to fast track everything. They got stopped on their tracks. A few things happened all of a sudden. I got bet in Castlebar for my first title. That was one thing. Then I had a visa issue going back to America. That was another thing. And then when I actually ended up getting back, COVID hit. So there were
Mm-hmm.
3 things that happened all of a sudden, one after another. And they were they have me where I am now, sort of in limbo at the minute. So,
Mm-hmm.
the reason the reason I had probably so many fights the first year was because I was capable to have the fights as well.
Mm-hmm.
I had the support. I could sell tickets straight off the bat. It was easy put me into fights because I always covered the cost of everything, and I was physically in good condition because I was training. I was trying to make a name for myself, so I was always ready to fight. So that was
Mm-hmm.
sort of one thing. They weren't putting me into fights to try and improve me, or not specifically anyway. I was obviously trying to improve in every fight, but they weren't giving me these fights to try and help me adapt. It was all a progress, and it was all working very well.
Like sometimes when, particularly when you've come from a very high level and the high performance unit and everything else, and then you go into fights and you're finding you're fighting opponents that aren't of the level you were used to fighting at. When journeymen have their course in boxing, and I really respect what they do, but whenever you're then fighting a journeyman who's there to survive and not really punch at times, you're sort of going, what's going on? Why are you not punching back with me? It can be a real sort of struggle when you've been used to probably the top athletes from every country, trying to take your head off, and now you have opponents going, I'm going to duck this way. I don't want you to hit me with a right hand and things like that. It must have been strange to get used to the pro side, like a sort of lower level, so to speak.
Of course, and it was frustrating too. It was frustrating because I was in good shape and I was training hard for these fights. And then when I was actually in some of the fights, um, my mother could have bet some of these guys. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And it was disheartening for me to put in so much effort and for not to be challenged or tested, and there are known I didn't need to put in that effort. Like it is frustrating. And then people then, so obviously I said I had good support base, which I do, thank God. And but people would have came and paid money to come and see them fights, and then I would have felt disappointed for them that they paid money to see that fight and it wasn't a real fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I made it clear early on I didn't want any of them fights, and I wanted to try and skip through them as best I could. Obviously you have to get one here and there. Other times you get an opponent pulls out and you have to take a fight, such things like that. That happens. That's professional boxing. That's just the name of the game. But I that's why I've been so inactive over the last 2 years. I had one fight in Belgium, and that was one of them fights, and I knew it was going to be. Um, but I haven't had any since, and I haven't had any before because I'm not putting my name to that. I'm not going to build a padded record for the sake of building a padded record. I'd rather hold off, um, get the steadier fights and build up, and then take a big fight when I'm ready for it. Not because my record tells me I'm 15 fights. That doesn't mean you're ready because you fought um, 10 dummies. It
Yep.
doesn't work like that. So I'm not. There's some people, there's some boxers there, and there's some professionals that maybe that's what they want to do. I want the harder fights. Um, Now saying that, from the fight in Castlebar when I was on the canvas, maybe something was telling me saying, "Pity this is not an easier fight." Obviously them
Mm-hmm.
things go through your head, but no, that's not why I'm in professional boxing. If I wanted to do that, I would go into something else, and I'd take up a job doing something else. That's not what I'm in it for. I'm not in it for getting my name in the paper. I'm not in it for building my Instagram account. I'm in it because I want to see what I can do. I want to be able to test myself, and I want to to get to the top of the level I can get to. And I
Mm-hmm.
love boxing. As I said, I'm doing it since I was 7 years of age. I'm 31 now. As you said, I'm not over the hill, but I'm not at the bottom of the hill either. So I have a bit of a career left, but I'm not going to walk away and in 10 years' time be sitting in a bar talking to someone saying I could have done that, I should have done that. You know, when I finish, when I walk away, I know I'll have exhausted all my options again. I'll either walk out in a blaze of glory, or I'll be carried out on my shield. I'm not going to go off wondering, I wonder what if I done that or if I changed something, you know. So that's me. Now, don't get me wrong, I've had some of them dummy fights, and I do, and I hold my hand up, but I don't go around parading them. I don't go around trying to big them up, saying something that they're not. I'm very honest in my boxing career, and I tell people this is going to be a big fight, or this is going to be a dummy fight. Maybe if they want to come and watch, I said, forget about this one, come to the next one, and I'll let you know. Because it's not, I'm not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes with my capabilities and with my record, you know. So you know, professional boxing is a business at the end of the day, but it's my career that I'm looking after, and I want to make sure it's done right.
Exactly.
When it's all said and done, you know, I want people to say Ray Moylette, you know, he gave great account for himself, and he did it the hard way, he did it the right way. Whether it's the right or wrong way, I don't know. I'm sure it's everything I do, it's more than likely the wrong way. So this is probably the wrong way too, you know. But at least he'll say he's honest, an honest boxer, and that's what I want to be known as.
It's like the two poles in the matrix. Which one do you pick? You know. Um,
Yeah,
but obviously, they say the good honest thing is, they say you don't want people to spend their hard-earned money to go and watch you fighting someone that they think's gonna be a good fight, and then they fall down once you hit them once, and they're going, "I give you money for this. You told me it's a good fight, and it's not a good fight, so you can't live with that in your
yeah.
conscience." Um, Obviously, your sole defeat as a pro back in 2018, was it sort of a tough one to take? I guess when you sort of look back on it now, you had 27 months of inactivity, some of it through the pandemic, everything else. But obviously, your fight was what, like your homecoming fight in Castlebar as well. Was it sort of like a tough one to sort of take, you know, or was it sort of I could have done more? You know, how
No,
tough was it to take?
all the accomplishments we named at the start, winning a
Mm,
world title, winning a European title, winning the All Irelands. My biggest achievement in the boxing ring was in Castlebar back in 2018. To fight at home in front of your home crowd in that atmosphere. There was over 2,000 people there of my friends, my family. They were there, and it's hard to explain it. The atmosphere that was there was an accomplishment beyond my wildest dreams.
mm,
So for me to be disappointed after that would be selfish, and it would be arrogant, and it wouldn't be right to
mm,
be disappointed with that. Fair enough, I lost the fight. That's one thing, but I experienced something that people don't experience. That's
mm,
sort of, and that's putting it lightly. You know, it's something there that night. The energy in there, the crowd, the gathering, the atmosphere, everything was just beyond belief. And there was the stuff what dreams are made of. You know what I
mm,
mean? Like that's what it's about at the end of the day. If I could replicate that again, whether I won or lost, it wouldn't matter because you
mm,
win every time you put yourself on the line in them situations. You win. Doesn't matter if your hand goes up. I won that night. I didn't win the fight, but I won the night.
mm,
Personally, I held my head high. Didn't matter. I've often left arenas where I won, and it could have been I could have been the worst night of my life, as
mm,
in terms of the way things work. Just because your hand is raised doesn't mean you won, you know, or just because your hand isn't raised doesn't mean you haven't won. There's a lot more things at play. Things aren't just black and white, and I see that now. As in, I've a child there. He's 1.5. He doesn't know the difference. He knows good and bad. He doesn't know the levels in between. And
mm,
maybe it took me 28 years to learn that, the levels in between, and my aunties be asking me, well, one in particular, she says, you have enough done in boxing now, why don't you give it up? She doesn't like me getting hit, and I said, I'm not ready to give it up. I said, I know I have a lot more to give. But now we can see where she's coming from. She's
mm,
coming from like a different level altogether. It's not about winning and losing with her, you know. Like Castlebar, I did want to win so badly, and I do. I would love to have won now, But at the end of the day, that was worth far more to me than actually winning the fight.
Yeah, the memories.
It's hard to explain it there now, but if I can just get that across, that there's a lot more to life than just winning or losing. There's the experience in between,
Yeah, definitely. It's like a surreal moment, sort of. It's like, it's something you probably never imagined would happen, but it's probably, we see people having hometown arenas. Like I think Nathan Heaney from Stoke obviously had, 1,600 people on his thing all chanting his name, everybody chanting your name in Castlebar. It gives you like a legendary sort of status in your own brain to know that I expected it might have been good, but nothing could top it in that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless you were holding a world title, in that same arena as well, maybe
Well,
top
we
it.
won't. Yeah, that could happen. There's nothing. The book isn't finished yet. Now there's plenty more to add. Obviously, it's far fetched, but stranger things have happened.
Exactly. You're only one sort of away from getting your next self to the next level.
Well, that's it. Like I know my record is good enough. My support is good enough. My pedigree is good enough. I'm 1 or 2 wins away from getting a big fight. And we all know when the bell rings, anything can happen. I know on my day, I could beat some of the best of them. Styles make fights in the day. I'm not going to come on here and say I'm a world beater because I'm not. Ultimately, I'm not. Not at this stage. We're 2 years out of the ring. But I know on the day when the bell rings, all bets are off and anything can happen. So to get myself into one of them positions, then I'll know.
Well, you use Maxie Hughes as another example. Pretty much this time, last July was pretty much done. Beats John O'Carroll. Obviously then he beat the guy that beat James Tennyson there as well, and his whole life's changed around where he's now going. A year ago I was thinking of packing it in, and now look where I'm at.
That's it. The Straffen he bet, and be honest with you, and there's no disrespect to Maxi Hughes, but Maxi Hughes isn't a world beater either. He's not. He's not the best boxer that I know of in that division anyway. So there's he got the break and he took it, and that's what you need to do. He was in a position to do it, number one, and then he took it, number two. So there's plenty of opportunity. Look at Mickey Ward. He was 36 when he got his break with Arturo Gatti. He was ready to take it. So I have 5 years left before I get a break like that. So I'm going to be ready for that then too, maybe. No, there's no script that everyone follows, and this is when you get to the top. There's nothing like that. There's opportunity. The opportunities will come for me again. I know it. I 100% know it. Pat Collins is working on it at the minute. But it's up to me then to be ready for it. So I'm not worried about that. But I'm not going chasing Josh Taylor now when I've been out of the ring for 2 years. Do you know what I mean? He's obviously the world champion at my weight. We were in the same weight in the amateurs as well. We never fought, but I'm not going to put my name in his bowl at the minute because I'm too smart for that, because I'm too real for that. So there's plenty of other fights there that I can climb the ranks, and then maybe in time I can be there.
Yep, definitely is. Obviously, during your 27 months of inactivity, and how many press ups did you do?
That's a good question. I think it was around 992 or 3.
Obviously, I know you just fell short of your challenge. I think it was 1,000 you'd planned to do, but I watched quite a lot of it, Ray, and I was sort of going, your arms must have been sore for weeks after doing that.
I'll tell you what, the truth, and maybe an awful lot of people don't know it. I think that was the 14th of April I did that. I actually did it the 1st of April, which was April Fool's Day. I did it at home here on my own. A good friend of mine, Denise Mack, told me she's going to do 500 in the day or something. Or did she say, actually, no, I'm wrong. She said she's going to do 1,000 in the day. And I was at home working my brain. I said, I wonder could that be done in an hour? And then I figured it out. Didn't take me too long. Probably took me longer than I should have. You have to do 17 a minute for 59 minutes. That was it. So I did it here myself and the dog. The dog was on the clock and I was doing the push-ups, and it was only me and the dog at home, and I did it. And I ended up doing an interview with Off the Ball then a few days later, and they said, did you really do it? I said, I actually did I did do that. They said, yeah, but you put it up on April Fool's Day, because I am I do like the practical jokes myself. I
Mm-hmm.
do any chance I do get, but I was actually real this time. So I said, look at it. They said, will you do it again? I said, I will. I said I'll raise a few pounds for charity as well with that. So that was it. But so it was 2 weeks later I did it again, and I thought I was sound until about 20 minutes into it, maybe half an hour into the 1 hour push-ups. My arm just went. I was gone. I knew I wasn't going to finish it. I can't even believe I got as close to the finish as I did because I had nothing left. I think if I was on my own, I definitely would. I wouldn't have passed 500 probably.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like I found out later that marathon runners, like they take months off after an intense marathon. Let's say like a world record time marathon to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Like what I did there was a marathon on my arms, and I thought I was sound. It probably took a week to settle, but when I settled in, I thought I was good. But until I started doing the push-ups again, I knew I wasn't good, and then I sort of crashed. So I was disappointed I didn't get the 1,000. But again, it wasn't about winning or losing. It wasn't about getting the 1,000. Like I raised over 16,000 for charities and local charities, and
Mm-hmm.
I uh, I sort of off the ball did a full show on me, and I sort of raised the spirits of plenty as well when there was no life sport, there was no ambitions of anything happening. It was sort of in the middle of the first lockdown, and it was sort of the first live event for a couple of months. So it was a bit of crack as well.
Yep.
But obviously disappointed again. I didn't reach the finish line, but I gained a lot more than that. I, but just for the record, I actually did do the 1,000 push-ups in an hour 2 weeks before that, but
Mm-hmm.
it didn't. I couldn't do it the 2 weeks after. Just my body wouldn't let me.
I think you had actually people joining in and stuff, and they were doing their own videos and stuff when you were doing it. It was
Yeah,
crazy. Like people can take this something so easy. Like I think then people do like you do so many push-ups, then you nominate someone else to do it. You have to do so many. It
yeah,
shows that what it shows
yeah.
that things can build very quickly, and what you've done is
That's
an amazing thing.
that all came from just a conversation with a friend of mine. So when she told me she's going to do it in the day, being competitive and being stubborn, I would thought how I could do it in an hour. And another good friend of mine, Jerry Hussey, like he works with a good core of people, and they ended up doing push-ups every morning for a few weeks. They could still do them. I don't know. So it did. It was a positive knock-on effect to everyone, and then of
Mm,
course anyone that donated, I want to thank them as well, especially because that's what it was about at the end of the day. It wasn't about me doing push-ups, whether I'd done 10,000 or 50.
mm-hmm.
That didn't even matter. It was about we raised the money, and thank God it went to the worthy charities, and they've benefited from it. So I benefited from the push-ups for myself, but the charities benefited more, and that was what was more important than anything else.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I'll be trying to do that myself anytime soon. I think I probably once I get to about 100, I'd probably have to stop and cry. You know, um, obviously you returned to boxing in March 2021, obviously after 27 months of inactivity. Was it probably? I know you sort of touched on it there already, but was it sort of a relief in some ways to be back, but probably disappointing at the fact that it was a first round stoppage win that you sort of maybe wanted a bit more from it? Did it sort of leave
Yeah,
you feeling?
it was a complete fall from grace, really. But saying that, I had two fights scheduled over the last 27 months,
Mm-hmm.
and the two of them were in Boston. The first time I didn't get past Dublin Airport with my visa issue, so that was a bit of a disaster. And the second time I said I was on the plane, I actually got to Boston, and then COVID hit, so I had to come home again to fight that time. So I was relieved just to get into the ring this time because I got
Mm-hmm.
so close the other few times. So I was relieved to get into the ring and just to get that box ticked so I could move on again. But I was disappointed. Your man didn't show up at all. It was a late change of an opponent, as that happens in professional boxing. Was I in shape? I was probably in 70% shape too. Because I knew it wasn't going to be a killer fight, and I was coming off a big sabbatical as well. So I wanted to try and ease myself in gradually. So I was disappointed didn't get a few rounds in, but I was glad and relieved to have got in the ring at all. So that was number one. whether I can get plenty of rounds in sparring, that'll do. But I just need to get in the ring and just get the last fight out of the system, which was Castlebar in terms of a loss. Get back to winning, and now that's all done. Park all that, and now we can start building and moving forward
again. Yep.
But just after that, lockdown 2 came along, or lockdown 3, whatever it was, and that sort of held up things again. So I'm back now to not square one, because I know the world is opening up now, and I'm opening up with it. So I know these opportunities are just around the corner for me. So at least I can keep the head down now and keep training and be ready for them, because I know they're coming. It's not like before where no one knew what was happening. Whereas now we all know when it's opening, what's happening and what's next. So at least that's something to look forward to.
Definitely is. And would the Laurie Friars fight be something you'd want to look at again when things do open up again?
I'm not even too bothered with Larry now. He seems to have gone down the journeyman route from what I see. I don't know. I'm not in any contact with him or anything, but I see he's getting big fights over there over west side in America, with Las Vegas side. He's over there with McCullough. So like he's on the road, like, because he's the away fighter all these fights. They're probably good opportunities for him, but at the end of the day, he's just racking up losses on his record. Like I'm in no rush to fight a loser, that kind of way. So I'm trying to climb up the rank, and I want to be fighting winners, and that'll build my career. So at the end of the day, the fight was cancelled twice, and it was going to be a great fight. I know the two of us be game for it, and it could happen, but I'm not going to go running after him now. Not just the way he's going. I think he's chasing the money, I believe, at the minute. He's taking these big fights, these outsider fights. I'm sure he's getting a couple of grand for each of the fights, and I'd say that'll do him at the end of the day. Whereas I have aspirations to bring titles here, bring titles back home, and sit on them. I'm not doing this for the money, and I want to make that clear. This is solely about the love of boxing that I'm doing this for now.
Yep. Obviously, a man has been calling your name out recently is Victor Rabbi. I think obviously we had an interview a while back, and he was saying that they tried to offer the fight to you before, and then when I think was it his ham was broke or something, then he said that your team obviously approached and knew he couldn't fight, and obviously his last fight there, and he's called you again. Is that a fight that would interest you with Victor?
Yeah, it's a fight that would interest me, because I know the two of us are fairly similar levels in terms of our career. I think he's 11 wins or whatever. I'm 12. I have a fight or two extra on him. We're in similar positions, and we're looking to move on to the similar positions as well. So it is a fight I would be interested in. But I actually seen that interview, what you did with him, and because I was tagged in it, so I jumped on, obviously. But I didn't hear any of that. That's the most of that stuff is the first time I've heard any of that. He's saying, Ray might ask me to fight this when I sore hand and all that. I never asked him to fight, and Packy wouldn't have done that either. Like I think they're filling him with stories, his own team, it's sort of building. I think they're just building it among themselves, and they're trying to make him feel very important, saying, they want to fight now, but they're not able for it, and they can't do this. I've never went looking for that fight. I didn't know he was even on the table until I seen your interview, so, and yet I'd already refused it. So like, there are things that I wanted to just correct. I never refused any fight. I never even asked for a fight with him. Let's say when his hand was bad, I never went looking for that. That was nothing to do with me. And when he won the last fight, then, well, I wouldn't even call it a fight. I'd just call it a dummy fight as well. But and then he went calling me out again. But I'm happy enough to be called out. I'm ready to fight him, and I will fight him if his team can get it over the line, and if they stand up to what they want to do. And I'm ready to go to America. So that's on my behalf. So just if they can get their own bit over the line, I'm happy to go ahead with it.
Yeah, fantastic. And I guess sometimes, like, it doesn't have to be any hate involved. Sometimes fights are going to happen sometimes, and if a fighter's going to get well paid and things like that out of it, happy days. Because that's, I know you're not in the sport for the money, but if the money's good when you're fighting as well, you're going to be too happy to take it. So as long as they're not offering you 10p and saying, "Here, fight." You know,
Yeah,
there
and
has to be
that's it.
something more.
And no one wants that. And there's no hate. I don't hate any other boxer because
Mm-hmm.
they're the same position as I am. It's wrong to hate, especially when someone is a mirror of image of yourself in terms of they're climbing the ladder, they're putting their life on the line in the ring, they want to do it for their family, whatever it is. You can't hate someone for being on the same journey as you. We
Mm-hmm.
actually we need each other to get
Yep.
up the ladder. So, like, I'm glad they called me out because I want to get back fighting. This is going to put the fire under my ass to train a bit harder, to make the pushes to get the fight over the line. Because sometimes it gets monotonous training and nothing happening. So a bit of action, a bit of drama is no harm at all, and I'm happy enough. And if anyone else wants to call me out too, I'm happy enough with that too.
Fantastic. So we find anybody else we're having interviews with around 140, make sure name drop and ask them to call you out.
Yeah, anyone from about 150 to 135. Anyone in that category at all, yeah. Just give me a
Definitely
fight.
worthwhile. And
That's how bad. That's how eager I'm at to fight. Just want to fight,
yeah,
and then
and
that.
and have you got any sort of inklings? You might not be able to say too much sort of on camera at the moment, but have you sort of any idea of when you might be next back in action?
I'm hoping to be back in action mid to the end of October. That's sort of the plan, and then Rabbi. Then after that, straight after that, is in my thinking. I haven't been in no contact with him, no contact with his team. That was it. No,
Fantastic.
nothing definite on that. But that's my own time frame.
And I know the sort of card in question, but we sort of just can't say too much of just yet. And to wait for it announced. Um, at, where you said when obviously you turned pro in 2017, you started a 2-year plan. I'm reminding you obviously you're 31 again. I'm 39, so it's not like I can say you're over the hill. But how much longer do you see yourself competing in boxing? I'm going
That's
to
a
I'm
good
going to throw
question.
another one out here, Ray.
Yeah.
Spike's 36, and he's still showing it can be done. So is Spike sort of a bad example?
Well, no, Spike is a very good example. Spike is the epitome of what it takes to keep your body in there all the time, and
Or the mother-in-law, as he calls it?
and and the rewards do come when you're there. The rewards will come. So you're asking me how long have I left? Spike has another 10 years left, so that leaves me with what?
15
15,
years.
15 years. So there you go. There's a bit more left to me yet.
I
So
think it was
hopefully,
actually, I
one
think,
I'll tell you what, the only thing that'll kill me and is the lack of boxing. And if I don't get another fight for 27 months, then I'll retire. But if
mm,
I can fight every couple of months, I'll fight until my body won't let me fight.
I was actually,
Inactivity,
I was actually
inactivity
slating
will kill me.
Spike here before we come on Instagram. I think Paggy put up a picture of him training, and I was saying that Spike looks 26. The anti-wrinkle cream must be working for him.
Yeah, but if Spike was training, that video was probably before lockdown, back in 2020. You can say that too.
He's always good for a laugh. I always look forward to seeing him on Twitter on a daily basis where he's putting pictures up of a mother-in-law. And I was saying to Paggy in Belfast the other week about him in Amsterdam and Spike taking a picture of Paggy outside the strip club or the sex shop, and he didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, Packy, there's not too much that doesn't pass Packy by. Packy knows well what's happening.
He
Sometimes he
definitely does.
pretends. Sometimes he pretends, but Packy knows. It's very hard to pull the wool over Packy's eyes. He controls everything in terms of he knows exactly what's happening, where we are, what we're doing at all times. He's the ultimate father figure for us all. He looks after us all very well, and he knows exactly. Sometimes he pretends he doesn't see things, but he does. He sees everything.
Yep. The Celtic Warriors gym must be some crack. Obviously when you mentioned Paggy and Spike and you know like Eric's obviously with you there now as well, and actually your new pro and Jesus Alvarez has joined the stable, and I was speaking to him quite at length in Belfast, and what characters there is in the gym is probably it epitomizes everything it is to do with professional boxing. It's a bit of crack, but you know when you have to work hard.
It does, and that's why I said when I walked into that gym back in 2016 when I was sparring Stephen Ormond, I just felt right. It was the right atmosphere. It was warm. It was bright. I've been in a lot of gyms over the world, and they're not nice places. The people in them are not nice people. But that's boxing in general. Like boxing gyms are hard places to make a living, and they're hard places to grow up. So thankfully, I was lucky enough to be in Westport. I was looked after there. I was looked after the high performance, and now I'm looked after in Celtic Warriors. So thankfully, I've a good stable no matter where I go. But the lads are great crack. We're all looking after each other. I'm sparring Niall O'Connor and Jesus Alvarez. Eric Donovan used to join the camp now. I haven't seen an awful lot of Eric, only the last couple of months, because let's say last year I wasn't really active at all. I wasn't in Dublin. I had a child last May, and that sort of took up all the time. I take up full-time work, so that took up time. There was no fights. I couldn't commit to Dublin. So Eric sort of joined the stable when I just had left, let's say for a year. So I haven't done an awful lot of mixer with him. So I'm looking forward now to getting back mixed with him now, which I have over the last couple of weeks, but getting really stuck into it now again with him. So, and then Packy, Packy's very good to us all. Craig O'Brien, Niall Kennedy, we're a great bunch of lads up there. So very happy. Reese Moore, another young lad from Waterford. So there's plenty of talent up there and plenty of action with us all.
Definitely is, and I know obviously Craig's got a big fight coming up in, I think is it Milan next week in
In
the zone.
Milan, it is, yeah, it is, yeah. That's a big one, and it's a fight that I highly fancy Craig to take that win. It's a good fight from him, and it's get him back because he's had two hard fights now on the zone cards or Sky Sports cards. So this is a good fight now for him to get him back and get his name back in the mix with all the light middleweights. And another lad as well in the gym, Daniel Sullivan. He's actually our pad man in the gym. He's Packy's prodigy, and he's in the elite semi-final. He's fighting Gabriel Dawson in the semi-final in the middleweight division, and he's a super talent as well, and a great operator, and just a lovely fella to be around. He's great for boxing. We love training with him, and we love helping each other along the way as well.
I definitely to say it's wee things in boxing. Like if Craig goes and wins, obviously, hopefully he wins next week. It could probably be the good thing for you as well. And you're going, Craig's changed his career around, and you're obviously looking for a fight to change your career around. And it's like, as I keep going back to success breeds success. So somebody will see Craig's one, obviously Eric. Was obviously back and winning again in Belfast as well. But these wee things will make a bigger difference. And Spike obviously back in action, yourself back in action. Then you're going, Craigie, we're all on a wave here. We're all going on the bigger things, and that's what it's all about. It's these wee positive things can make a bigger difference.
Oh, of course, and I know firsthand what that wave is like. Like I've been pretty well looked after in Boston by the Dropkick Murphys and Murphys Boxing, and I got on the wave there with Spike and Niall Kennedy. When I first jumped in 2017, they brought me along with them because they were going over. They were on fight cards over there, and they were promoted over there. So they brought me along with them, and I jumped into the groove. And I had 8 or 9 fights over there in Boston over the last few years. So that's because of the wave of my teammates. So it's very important for your stable to be doing well. And thankfully now Celtic Warrior seems to be on the up. Packy's not one of these trainers that just throws his boxers into any fight for the sake of it. He wants to look after his boxers. There's too many boxers going around there at the minute, and they've damage done to themselves in the ring, and no amount of money is worth that in any fight. So Packy and he's not going to sell you out. If Packy, just because he's going to get a bigger check at the end of the day, that's not what it's about for Packy. So he's going to look after his fighter at all costs, and then if he thinks he can win the fight, or if he thinks that the fight's a good fight for you, he'll take it. He will never sell you out to get the bigger check for anyone else. So that's important to know as well. And so that's why, you see some other stables and they all jumping into big fights here, but they're most of the time they're away fighters, or they're just making up numbers. You know, we in Celtic Warrior gyms, we don't want to be making up numbers. We want to be every fight we go into, we want to be winning these fights and trying to get to the next level all the time. It's all about the next level with us.
And was it your first child you had then, Ray? Was it obviously pretty much during the pandemic? So are you sort of looking forward to obviously when your child can come and watch you boxing, or will that be sort of the child be kept away from boxing just until it's at the right age to know?
No, he's his first pair of gum shields at the minute, and he's only 1.5. So he's I have plenty of nephews and cousins, and he'll be fighting, I'd say, within the next year. I just have to get him down a bit of weight. That's all. He's a bit stocky, so I just need to work on that. But no, absolutely, I'm looking forward to bringing him on the journey with me as well. You know, maybe what I'm doing now is somewhat for him.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's why I'm not taking fights for money. I'm not going to sell out anything for the sake of it, because at the end of the day, I want him to grow up and say, Daddy's a champion. Daddy won this. Daddy's not going around with a few pounds in his pocket and telling soft stories. You know, that's not what I want to be. I want to be someone that he can look up to, and I want him to know that you don't need to sell out to get to the top. You know, you do it the hard way and the right way.
Nearly like the memories you had of Castlebar, obviously, that money can't sort of buy, that you want your own child to have memories of you when they're growing up.
But like I want to be winning fights now. Like there's nothing to stop me becoming a journeyman and make 50,000 next year on fights. Take a fight every weekend and lose them all. Like there's nothing stopping me doing that. Only my pride. And I'm not going to do that, because when Kobe Ray goes to school, he's 6 or 7 years of age, I want him to be able to stand up tall and say that his daddy's a champion and that he's a boxer and a winner, you know, and he's still at home looking after me. Whereas the other way, you don't have too long left in that. So that's not what I'm going to do, you know. So that's why it's not about anything else for me. It's about maybe building a legacy and, you know, giving back something what boxing has given to me.
And about like pictures and things like that, obviously, with you with a title on your child, with the, you know, seeing the look in their eyes when they're saying, you know, were you a belt and things like that. It's probably,
there you go. Yeah.
They say some things happen in life for reasons, you know, things happen for a reason. And obviously, maybe your child came on at the time and it did. It might obviously be the rebirth of obviously of yourself as a boxer.
Yeah, of course. And like maybe, you know, if things didn't happen, you know, everything happens for a reason. I solely believe that, you know, and you know, there's things. It's very easy to be inspired now. You know, it's very easy to put the head down, get training when he's there looking up at you. You know, that's just number one. But obviously, it can't be all about him, because at the end of the day, it's me that's going into the ring. But I said it before in an interview that as soon as he comes into my head in the boxing ring, then it's time to step away, because it's no good then. Then the killer instinct is gone. The edge is gone. So at the end of the day, I'm selfish. I'm greedy. I'm whatever you want to be when I'm in the boxing ring. It's all about me. It's how I do things. It's what the way I want to do it, and it's how I can inflict hurt on someone else. As soon as Kobe Ray comes into my head, then it's time to step back. So he just come into my head in the ring. He comes into my head outside, and that's how it has to be.
Definitely, it's like a split personality sort of thing. It's when you're in the ring, it has to be focused solely on you, and that's right. That when somebody else's thoughts come into your head, you're in it for the wrong thing, as you say, you know. But I say, hopefully, fingers crossed, you know, that change in fortune, obviously, with having a child, sort of brings a rebirth, obviously, of yourself and takes you on the where you want to be in the sport. I want to leave you with one final question. I always like to know random sort of questions, but your nickname Sugar Ray, where did it come from, or who gave you it?
So when in the high performance unit, Roy Sheehan came up with Stingray. Everything was Stingray. So I ended up taking that moniker, and I set up a fitness industry, a gym back in 2012, and that was called Stingray Fitness. And I sort of went along that route. and I wanted to just brand myself as something different. I started off with Stingray, but I wanted to change it, and I didn't know what I wanted, but I didn't want it to be that. I wanted to be something completely different from what I was doing, and then I thought of Sugar Ray, and then I was thought, Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, they're the greats, And then I said, how? I said, I'm able to be put in the same category as them. I said, I can be the third Sugar Ray. I said, everyone knows Sugar Ray. Like people that don't know boxing, that never watch boxing, if you would say Sugar Ray to them, they can associate it with boxing. They know it's a success story. So I knew I was good enough to be put in that bracket, and that's where that came along. I wanted to be called Sugar Ray after Robinson and Leonard, and I wanted to be the third.
Well, it's only, as they say, sometimes it's only yourself that's stopping you from becoming a great. It's only yourself looking back at yourself in the mirror. It tells you, are you going to be a great? And to say, how do you know what's going to happen in the years ahead for you?
And that's it, But I wanted to get that across to my head, that I'm capable of being put in the same sentence as them two other boxers. And I'm modest. I'm very modest. I never go around and say I'm the best and this and that. I don't do that. But I know personally that I feel I can be put in the same sentence as them. Obviously not now, with not much action happening at the minute, but when I'm going well and when things are happening, I know I have the potential to put in the same sentence as them two lads.
Definitely. Well, Ray, we've got to the end of the questions. I must say it's actually been a delight, obviously, bringing you on for the first time and sort of hearing a bit of the story. Obviously, I've known of when you've been doing the press ups and things like that, you can get a curtail of the sort of the way a person is. Somebody's doing crazy things like 1,000 press ups in an hour. There obviously there's a screwless somewhere, but there's the good heart to be able to help others. And I was always able to have that opinion of Ray Moylette's a good guy, but now that I know more of the story, when I'm obviously putting posts up for fight news and things like that, I'll be able to understand more behind of what I'm putting up. So it's been a pleasure getting to know you, more of you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. And I know, I'm always following your posts, and you're a very good supporter of mine as well. Well, I feel anyway. You're always putting plenty of content up and support for me, whether I'm fighting or not. So I really appreciate that, and love to see your name popping up on Instagram and social media. So I really appreciate that as well. And I know this is the first time you've had me on now when you say that, but I hope it's not the last. And,
fingers crossed.
Yeah.
well, definitely. Yeah. Obviously, if you do get fighting next month, I'm sure we'd love to obviously have you on afterwards to sort of see how it was getting back into. It could be a juicy fight. You just don't know. You could be a last minute stand-in for Jack Catterall or Joyce Taylor and be fighting for all the belts at 140. You just don't know.
No, you don't know anything. But the only thing I do know is that I will be ready, and that's all I can do, and everything else will play out. But a failure in this game is not reaching to the top. It's for opportunity to come and not be ready for it. That's failure. If the opportunity doesn't come, good and well, you're still ready. But if it does come and you're not ready, I'd never be able to live with that.
Definitely is. But Ray, listen, thanks very much for your time. Obviously, I know it's 9:20 now. Probably by the time we put this up, it'll be Thursday morning. So obviously it'll be good wisdom for people watching it tomorrow and hearing the positive energy from your interview. But thanks once again for coming on and having a chat with us. And I'm sure we'll catch up with you again soon, Ray.
Yes, absolutely, Stephen. Thank you very much.
Cheers, take care. Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.